What is up, Terps fans? Welcome into Fear the Podcast. I'm Matt Moderno. He's Jack Sheehan, and we're just going to talk about Buzz is back. He's got another recruit to add to the 2026 class here in Kaden House, son of NBA bucket getter. Let's just call him Eddie House. As a guy I really enjoyed watching play because he was just sort of, I don't know, had no conscience about getting his shots up. So I always appreciated that. Kaden, a little bit of a gunner here too. We'll get into his overall game, but I don't know, Jack. Were you kind of surprised by this? I think by all accounts, he was ready to commit after the visit, and they were maybe a little lukewarm. So he was out, and now he's back in. All of a sudden, what happened? What changed? What do you know about the situation?
Yeah, it was kind of an interesting recruitment to follow. Like you said, things seemed like they were in a good spot after his visit,
Mm.
which I guess was back in like the second weekend of September.
Yeah,
They had Baba in town that weekend as well. So I'd heard the visit went well. Both sides seemed to have some high interest,
hmm
and then yeah, it kind of went silent for a little bit. It seemed like Buzz and company maybe were thinking about going a different direction or just exploring some other options. Obviously there were some other point guards that they had missed out on, like
sure.
Anthony Brown, Trey Beamer. I know House is maybe a little bit less of a
Combo.
primary ball
Yeah.
handler than those two, but all of a sudden some spots opened back up and
Mm.
Maryland got back involved. I heard, I think the day before, the morning of, that things were starting to ramp back up and look like something could be coming imminent.
Mm.
Obviously, that ended up happening. So, yeah, it's kind of a funny recruitment, but obviously it ended up, seems like both sides are a good match and see what happens from here.
I think we're going to see more of these with guys of this caliber. He is a four-star recruit. The 24/7 composite has him as the 44 ranked player, so this is a good player. These like late big commitments are kind of the dominoes that need to fall for other people. I think when the Terps struck out on Junior County, who they were madly in love with, it sort of just, I don't know, maybe made them kind of revisit some other options here as well. Was this like Maryland not buying into his like long term potential? You think that they soured on, or is it other guys they liked more, or is it just was there something that they didn't see from him that they wanted to see? And any insight into that from the Maryland perspective of like what
Yeah,
this really was?
yeah, I don't think it was anything to that effect.
Okay,
I know you had mentioned Junior County. He probably would be the best kind of example of a guy that they were chasing, and I
sure.
think he was probably a little bit higher on their board.
Mm,
I know he's a little bit higher, more highly ranked
yeah.
by the 24/7 scouts, if you will.
Mm,
But yeah, no, I don't think it was ever a question of whether or not they thought he was good enough to play at Maryland
yeah.
or what have you. I think they were always interested. They kind of have been recruiting him for a decent while now.
Mm,
They'd been out to see him play a good bit over the summer on the Puma circuit. So they were always a fan of his. It was just, it's kind of one of those deals where recruiting
it
has its
happens.
ebbs and flows and kind of can shake out a little bit differently for everybody. And his path to Maryland is maybe a little up and down and windy and yo-yo, if you will, but it all worked out in the end.
Like just the way it played out almost feels a little consolation prizey. But normally for the Terps, when this happens, they end up with the guy ranked 124 in the class, not 44 in the class. So if this is your consolation prize, I will absolutely take this every single time.
Yeah, not a bad thing to kind of fall back on a top 40 recruit. So I think as we move into this, and we're already in it, but the era of the transfer portal, and
Yeah.
different schools have different strategies. A lot of coaches now are going after. They'd rather pick a veteran guard out of the portal at the end of the
Mm,
year. So maybe that lowers the recruitment of some of these fringe-ish
yeah.
5 stars. Highly ranked 4 star kids maybe aren't as high up the wish list of some of these blue bloods like we used to see. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of affects Maryland. We kind of see it here with House, but you look at his offer list, good schools, but again,
Not world beater
no
kind of
no
schools.
yeah,
Yeah.
no blue bloods. I know Grand Canyon was super involved, which
Mm,
is not a school you typically see Maryland competing
They've
against.
got a ton of money, so I think they're going to keep getting in on stuff like this too.
Yeah, and then St. John's started to
Mm.
sniff around there late. He actually had a visit scheduled to go up there. I think it was either this weekend or the following. Obviously, that's since been scratched, but yeah, just an interesting recruitment as a whole. So
I love that you just mentioned St. John's because now I can say we beat out Rick Pitino for a
there you
guard that
go.
seems like he would have fit for Rick Pitino. I was almost wondering like if Eddie House was around long enough to have played for Rick Pitino with the Celtics. I don't know what the timeline was there, but
Yeah, I don't know if there's any overlap there.
which would be kind of wild. But this is great from his perspective. I think this was clearly his top option. He liked the visit, like you mentioned. And as soon as Maryland gets back in, it seems like it happened just that quickly. So it was almost kind of like he was maybe waiting around for this kind of offer to materialize. And I think for Terps fans, it's like you love to hear that this guy, was prioritizing Maryland at least from his perspective. And that's this isn't just like we both kind of got stuck with each other. It's like Maryland was as good an option for him as was probably out there, and they saw the fit. And I think if you've got a smart basketball playing dad and he looks at the way Buzz Williams will unleash like driving downhill guards. That's kind of what I see from Kaden House. So to me, the fit here is really good, and I got to think that's part of what the draw is from their perspective too.
Yeah, you kind of hit on it. You look at kind of the way Buzz has let his guards play over the years.
Yeah.
Wade Taylor comes to mind. A lot of volume, a lot of freedom to get shots up and play however get up as many shots as you want.
Mm.
So I see kind of a path similar to that for House. He's going to be he's a super athletic kid, which seems to be priority number one for Buzz. He
Yeah.
loves athletes. Um, got a ton of energy. Plays super hard on the defensive end. Obviously, all prerequisites for this system. And then yeah, offensively, not the best shooter. I know we've thrown that around quite a bit now with talking about some of the players on the team and recruits and what have you, but he's very talented at getting to the bucket.
Mm.
Kind of wrote about that in the commitment article, but it's kind of where he thrives is using his speed to get to the rim, pull up in the mid range, can create separation and create his own shot. So I think as he gets to campus and starts to get older, I think I'll be keeping an eye on his 3-point shooting because that'll kind of I think determine how high his ceiling is.
It's interesting too because like he makes some creative finishes around the basket. He's got pretty good touch. You see a floater here and there. Like normally guys like that, I'm not as worried about the jump shot long term if they show they've got like soft hands to do that kind of thing. It is a little like push shotty, which as someone who has an ugly jump shot, I've always said it doesn't matter if it goes in. So
You and me both, man.
hopefully he gets to that point where it goes in enough that we're not super worried about that. I do think there's some parallels there with Darius Adams, guys that are 6'3 ish and some change. Adams maybe a little bigger here, can play a little one, a little two, more like slashers than pure shooters, but they find ways to get to the cup and maybe the two of them can actually play a decent amount together. Assuming Adams is here and still doing his thing next season, but uh, yeah, I'm kind of liking what guard like Buzz is doing here. And they're both bigger than some of the guards they had at A&M, so
Hmm.
adding a little bit more size and some of the athleticism here too, I don't think is a bad thing for this group.
Yeah, yeah. You kind of, as you mentioned, seeing him and Adams kind of sharing the court together. Should he come back for another year? Obviously, kind of. It's an exciting duo to think about. Two highly regarded kids, similar play styles. So yeah, it'll be cool to see how they kind of fit in together.
All right, Jack, I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. Does Maryland add one more member to this 2026 class before all is said and done?
Whew, that's a tough one. I think at this point, I think they're still in the running a little bit for Asher Elson, the stretch four out of overtime elite.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard some positive chatter there. I think Syracuse is probably still the favorite at this point, but
Okay.
Maryland's certainly still in it. And then obviously the big fish is Baba. And it's always tough to, gun to your head predict a big
Sure.
timer commit like that. I know Arkansas is super involved. Can never really love your chances going up against Calipari.
Sure. Yeah.
Kentucky also.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's tough to give a definitive answer there. I'd be surprised if it was anybody outside of the two of them. I
Mhm.
think it'd be an upset if Elson committed to Maryland. I
Okay.
still have Maryland kind of running second in that. And then yeah, Baba is it's a coin flip. I know he's receptive to the idea of staying home, but
Sure.
it's think recruitments like that can
It's
go
tough.
any which
Tough to
way.
turn
So
tough to turn down a blue blood and then Calipari anything.
yeah, so I'll say yes just
Okay.
to appease the crowd, but
There you go. I like it.
I'll leave a name out of it. How about
That's fair.
that?
Totally fair. We will have more on the Baba Olodetun visit coming up later in the week here. The guy who produced the recruitment video for him is a friend of mine, and I think did a good job putting that together. If folks haven't gone and watched that yet, go find Baba's YouTube channel and watch the third episode. They did a 14-minute video of what it was just like being on campus. He seems like genuinely into it and talks how much he loves certain things. The Virginia Tech video, that was their first episode, was positive, but it was more about like, oh, it's so cool my dad went here. The Maryland video
Right.
is like, this place is awesome and look how cool this is and this is sick. And I want to go to a place where I have a lot of shoes and colors and I look cool. And the Terps are showing him, all the gear and stuff. And he seemed genuinely excited about that. All stuff you would expect from a 17-year-old kid to be into. So I felt good coming out of that. But Mike was on the actual visit with them, so hopefully he can give a little insight and
Hmm.
tell us a little bit more about Baba the person and maybe where his head's at a little bit. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, super cool video. It's always cool when the kids let you come kind of behind the
Yeah.
curtain. And I remember back in the day, Emmanuel Quickly when he
Mm-hmm.
was getting recruited, he had a similar style, YouTube series where you would see Calipari coming into his house
Yeah.
and
That's
talking to his
cool.
family, and just a Turgeon came in for a home visit. And it was fun to see the coaches put on their recruiting hats kind of
Yeah.
behind the scenes. So yeah, cool, super cool video. Awesome to see. You can tell obviously how big of a priority he is,
Yeah.
taking him to the Under Armour headquarters and all that. So yeah, we'll see. Maryland's got a good chance, but just got to close.
Yeah, it's nice to just be in that race a little bit, even if you're a bridesmaid in this situation. Like it still says something that you can get in there with the top 10 guy, whether he's local or not. Jack, any other recruiting thoughts or anything Terp wise going into the start of the season here with the first game tomorrow?
Yeah, excited to finally see the boys in action. You know, the injuries are a little they kind of tamper the mood a little bit or
Yeah,
expectations. I know there's a lot of uncertainty around some of the guys that are out, but Buzz likes to keep a tight lid on that injury information. So we'll see. It'll be, I guess, anybody's guess who runs out there tomorrow, with the starting five, and who's still in boots and who's on scooters and who's dressed. I think I'd be surprised if Rice or Washington are
yeah,
healthy tomorrow,
same.
but sounds like Watts and Coit. I know they both missed the exhibition game, but
Mm-hmm.
sounds like there's a good chance that those two might be back in action. So they should be nearing full strength. Obviously not there quite yet, but big one on Friday. Obviously you don't want to look too far ahead, but like to get like to be at full strength for that one for sure.
That would be nice. There was some chatter that Miles Rice was at the football game without a boot on, so hopefully that's a good sign. Again, don't think he plays Monday either, but maybe if you can get him back by Friday, that'll make a big difference. I will have a much more in-depth preview of the Georgetown game coming up here between now and then, but they're good and their perimeter defense is tough. That would make me very nervous if we had like three freshman guards again that couldn't handle UMBC pressure. So hopefully, Miles Rice and Diggy Coit are ready to handle the load there.
We will see.
All right, everybody. Thanks for checking in. Jack, thank you for doing this. Folks, if you are listening to this right now, probably on Sunday night or sometime on Monday, after the Coppin State game, I will have James Gist on to recap the game with me. So check in with that. We're going to do it as soon as the game ends. So come right back here to the channel for that one. And like I said, later in the week, we'll have a preview for Georgetown. Rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. Hit the like button for us. Jack, hopefully we'll talk to you after a win here, and we'll see how it goes.
All right, Matt. Thanks again for having me on, man. Always a good time, and keep doing your things.
Thanks.
This channel's doing great.
Yeah, always nice to have fun stuff to talk about. So, Buzz, keep getting recruits for us. So we'll have a whole party when Baba commits.
There we
All right,
go.
all right, everybody, know the drill. We'll text. Well, hopefully we're talking to you after a win. We'll see how it goes. Shouldn't be too worried about Coppin State, but you never know. All right, until then, share the podcast.